After my accident, my partner visited once and called me a burden. When he needed my signature for our mortgage, I modified the document. Now he's discovering the house is solely in my name. So there I was, flat on my back in a hospital bed with machines beeping all around me like some whacked-out electronic concert. Let me tell ya, getting T-boned at an intersection by some dude texting in his F-150 wasn't exactly on my bucket list. 3 broken ribs, a shattered femur, and enough bruising to make me look like a human-sized grape. Good times, am I right? I remember thinking, at least Derek will be here soon. Derek and I had been together for 6 years. We met at a mutual friend's Super Bowl party. He spilled his Bud Light on my favorite Nikes, and somehow that turned into us buying a house together. Funny how life works. The first day after the accident was rough. My parents lived 3 states away, so they couldn't get there right away. My bestie Jess showed up with contraband Starbucks and stayed until the nurses kicked her out. But Derek? Radio silence for almost 24 hours. When he finally rolled in the next day, he looked like he'd just been mildly inconvenienced by a long line at Chipotle, not like his girlfriend was lying in a hospital bed. The parking here is ridiculous, were literally his first words to me. Not, are you okay? Or, I was so worried. Nope. Hospital parking complaints. He stayed for maybe 20 minutes, scrolling through his phone half the time. Then he checked his Apple Watch and sighed. How much longer will this take? He asked, like I was getting my oil changed at Jiffy Lube instead of recovering from a near-death experience. Gee, Derek, I don't know, I said. The doctor thinks I might be here for at least 2 weeks before rehab. His face did this thing where it tried to look concerned but couldn't quite pull it off. 2 weeks? But we have that trip to Cabo next month. For real, the man was worried about a vacation while I was wondering if I'd walk normally again. That's when Jess and my coworker Mia walked in with a care package. Derek stepped outside to take a call, probably relieved for the excuse to bounce. That's when it happened. Through the half-open door, we all heard him loud and clear. Yeah, she's becoming a burden. I'm thinking of moving on. This whole thing is just not what I signed up for. Jess almost dropped the fruit basket she was holding. Mia's mouth fell open. And me? I felt like I'd been hit by that truck all over again. Update. Y'all, I can't even begin to thank you for the support. Reading your comments while stuck in this hospital bed has been the highlight of my days. Some of you asked if I confronted Derek about what he said. Truth is, I decided to play it cool. Something inside me just shifted when I heard those words. I started looking at our life together differently. Speaking of which, guess what document just landed on my lap yesterday? Our mortgage renewal papers that couldn't wait for me to get better. He needs my signature ASAP. What would you do if you were me? When Derek visited the next day, shocking, I know, he didn't bring flowers or food or anything useful. Nope, he brought paperwork. The mortgage renewal needs your signature, he said, dropping the folder on my hospital tray table next to my untouched Jell-O. It's due by the end of the week. I stared at him, wondering if this was actually the same guy, who once drove 4 hours in a snowstorm just to bring me soup when I had the flu. The contrast was giving me whiplash worse than the actual accident. Seriously? That's why you're here? He shrugged. Well, I'm here to see you too, obviously. The obviously part was about as convincing as gas station sushi. Can't this wait? I asked, gesturing to my very broken body. Not really. We could lose the rate if we don't lock it in now. He clicked his pen and held it out to me. It's the same terms as before. Nothing's changed. But everything had changed, hadn't it? I took the pen and pulled the papers closer. Our house. The one we'd scraped and saved for. The one I'd put my entire inheritance from Grandma into for the down payment. The one Derek had spent weekends fixing up, always reminding me how much sweat equity he was putting in. What Derek didn't know was that before my accident, I'd been taking night classes in contract law, not to become a lawyer or anything, just because I found it interesting. Little details fascinated me, like how a simple modification, initialed by both parties, could completely change a legal document. I flipped through the papers slowly. Derek kept checking his watch. Do you have somewhere to be? I asked. Just a work thing later, he mumbled. I nodded and started signing, but on page 3, I paused. The ownership section. With my pen, I carefully struck through joint tenants and wrote sole ownership, my full name, in the margin. I initialed the change. Then I signed the bottom with a flourish and handed it back to him. All done, I said with a smile. Derek barely glanced at the papers before stuffing them back in the folder. Great, I'll drop these off at the bank on my way to work. You do that, I said, leaning back into my pillows. Oh, and Derek, don't worry about visiting tomorrow. I know you're busy. The relief on his face was almost comical. You sure? I mean, I could try to swing by. No need, I'm good. After he left, I texted my cousin Tara, who worked at the same bank where we had our mortgage. Nothing major, just a heads up that some paperwork was coming in and to make sure everything was processed correctly. Tara and I had always been close, and she knew all about Derek's recent behavior. She sent back a thumbs-up emoji. 2 weeks passed. I moved from the hospital to a rehabilitation center. Derek visited exactly once, for 12 minutes. Meanwhile, Jess brought me clean clothes and magazines. My parents finally made it to town and came daily. My coworker set up a meal train and a GoFundMe for my medical expenses. And Derek? He moved his Xbox to his buddy's place because, and I quote, "it's depressing at the house alone." I focused on healing. Physical therapy was brutal, like trying to run a marathon after chugging a fifth of Jack Daniels. Every day was pain and progress in equal measure. But I had a goal now, to be strong enough to handle whatever came next. Update. I'm completely blown away by all your messages and advice. I'm typing this from my rehab center bed. Got upgraded to a private room thanks to some of y'all who chipped in on that GoFundMe. Still can't believe that. My physical therapist says I'm recovering faster than expected, so that's something. Quick clarification since many asked. Yes, the mortgage modification was entirely legal. I checked with an actual lawyer friend yesterday. The bank processed everything without issue since both our signatures were there. Derek still has no clue what's coming, but here's the kicker. I just found out from a mutual friend that he's been seeing someone from his gym for the past 3 months. While I've been fighting to walk again, what else has he been hiding? A month after the accident, I was finally cleared to go home. My parents helped set up a temporary bedroom on the first floor of our house since stairs were still a no-go. Jess stocked the fridge with meals. And Derek? He mentioned having a work thing the day I was discharged. The house felt different when I returned. Or maybe I was the one who was different. I noticed things I'd overlooked before. How the framed photos were mostly from my side of the family. How my grandmother's antique table held Derek's dumped keys and loose change. How the bookshelf was 90% my books. That night, Derek came home late. I was propped up on the sofa, my leg elevated. "Hey," he said, barely looking at me as he headed straight for the fridge. "How was your first day back?" "Illuminating," I replied. He grabbed a Coors Light and popped the tab. "Cool. Listen, I was thinking maybe we should talk about, the situation." "What situation is that?" I asked, even though I knew exactly what he meant. He took a long swig. "I mean, this is hard for both of us, and I'm just not sure if I can, be with someone who isn't perfectly healthy and convenient." I finished for him. His face flushed. "That's not fair. I've been here, haven't I?" "Have you, though?" I wanted to ask. Instead, I said, "Derek, who's Skylar?" The beer can froze halfway to his lips. "Who?" "Skylar. From your gym. The one you've been seeing while I've been learning how to walk again." She's just a friend." Classic Derek, about as convincing as a $3 Rolex. "A friend you've been sleeping with for 3 months?" He put the beer down. "Who told you that? It's not. Look, it just happened, okay? You were in the hospital, and I was stressed, and I was becoming a burden," I finished. "Not what you signed up for, right?" His face went white. He knew exactly what I was referring to. "You heard that? I didn't mean—" "Save it," I cut him off. "By the way, you might want to call the bank about the mortgage." His forehead wrinkled in confusion. "Why?" "I dropped off the papers. It's all taken care of." I smiled. "Is it, though?" The next morning, I was awakened by the sound of Derek yelling into his phone in the kitchen. I grabbed my crutches and hobbled to the doorway to listen. "What do you mean she's the sole owner? That's impossible. We're both on the mortgage." Pause. "What modification? I never approved any." Another pause. "But I signed it too." I cleared my throat. Derek spun around, his face a storm cloud. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone before slamming it down on the counter. "Problems with the bank?" I asked innocently. "What did you do?" he demanded. "I made a slight modification to the paperwork. The papers you barely looked at before rushing them to the bank. The change I initialed right in front of you. You can't just change a legal document like that." "Actually, I can. Both parties signed it. The bank accepted it. It's done." His face cycled through about 7 different emotions. "This is our house." "Our house." I shook my head. "No, Derek. It's my house now. The house I put my entire inheritance into. The house I've been making payments on while you spent your money on gaming systems and gym memberships. But I built the deck. I painted the bedrooms. I installed the ceiling fans. Congratulations on doing the bare minimum that any homeowner would do." His phone started ringing again. The screen showed it was the bank calling back. He ignored it. "You need to fix this," he said. "No, I really don't. You can't do this to me. I built that house." I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. "You built nothing, Derek. You just lived here, and now you don't anymore." "What does that mean?" "It means you have 30 days to find a new place to live. I'd suggest Skylar's, but I hear she lives with 3 roommates in a studio apartment, so good luck with that." Update. Thank you all for riding this wild roller coaster with me. It's been 2 months since I last updated, and I'm finally walking without assistance. The house feels so much bigger without Derek's stuff cluttering everything up. He moved out last week after making 27 angry phone calls, sending 15 dramatic texts, and leaving 1 pathetic Walmart bouquet on the porch with a card that just said, "Please." To those wondering if I'm being too harsh, this man literally told people I was a burden while I was fighting to recover, then cheated on me with some gym bunny named Skylar. Meanwhile, my awesome support system, y'all included, helped me realize I deserve way better. But here's what keeps me up at night. Was I wrong to trick him with the paperwork? Could I have handled this differently? Or was this karma doing its thing? The fallout was nuclear-level epic. Derek wasn't exactly the type to go quietly into the night. First came the denial phase. He kept acting like he was coming home every day, bringing random groceries I didn't ask for, fixing things around the house I hadn't complained about. Like changing the porch light bulb would somehow make me forget he'd called me a burden and cheated on me with Jim Schuyler. Then came the bargaining. What if I sleep in the guest room? What if we go to couples therapy? What if I help pay for your medical bills? All while still texting Schuyler when he thought I wasn't looking. I spotted her name on his phone notifications more than once. Real Prince Charming, this one. The anger phase hit about a week later. That's when the 27 calls started, each voicemail more desperate than the last, culminating in the now infamous, "You can't do this to me, I built that house," which Jess and I may or may not have set as a ringtone for a while. I had my lawyer friend Kate send him an official notice to vacate. That's when reality finally sank in for Derek. "You're seriously kicking me out? After 6 years together?" he demanded. One evening, standing in the living room with Kate's letter crumpled in his fist. "No, Derek, you kicked yourself out the moment you decided I wasn't worth sticking around for. That's not what happened. Isn't it, though? Tell me something. If our situations were reversed, if you were the one lying in that hospital bed, would I have visited only once? Would I have complained about parking? Would I have cheated on you with someone from my gym?" His silence was all the answer I needed. Moving day was awkward, to say the least. His buddy Travis showed up with a U-Haul, giving me these weird side eyes like I was some kind of home-stealing witch. Derek barely spoke, just hauled his Xbox and sneaker collection out with a scowl that could curdle milk. "You know this isn't legal," he muttered as he grabbed the last box from the garage. "My lawyer says differently," I replied, leaning on my cane in the doorway. "You signed the papers, Derek." I didn't know what I was signing. Maybe next time read the fine print before you rush off to meet your gym buddy. The look on his face, like I'd slapped him with a cold fish. Priceless. After he left, the house felt empty, but not in a bad way. More like when you finally take off uncomfortable shoes after a long day. I walked through each room, my steps getting stronger every day, and reclaimed my space. I painted the bedroom a color Derek had always vetoed, a gorgeous teal that made me smile every morning. I replaced his massive leather recliner with a reading nook by the window. I adopted a three-legged rescue cat named Lieutenant Dan, who quickly became the true king of the house. My recovery continued. Physical therapy went from 5 days a week to 3, then to 2. I graduated from the cane to walking unassisted. My parents went back home but called every day. Jess and Mia became regular fixtures at my weekly healing and dealing dinner parties. One afternoon, about 3 months after the accident, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Derek standing there, looking thinner and more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. "Can we talk?" he asked. I considered closing the door in his face, but curiosity got the better of me. 5 minutes. He stepped inside, his eyes widening at all the changes. "The house looks different." "That's what happens when you redecorate without someone else's tastes holding you back." He nodded, shifting uncomfortably. "Look, I know I messed up. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I miss you. I miss us. Schuyler and I broke up, and let me guess," I interrupted. "She became inconvenient too?" His silence confirmed my suspicion. "Derek, did you know that the day after my accident, the doctor told me I might never walk normally again? That I might need assistance for the rest of my life?" He shook his head. "And yet here I am, walking on my own. When they told me that, I didn't give up. I didn't look for an easier path. I put in the work because that's what you do when something matters to you." "I know that now," he said quietly. I shook my head. "No, you don't. You only know what it's like to lose something you took for granted. That's not the same thing." "So there's no chance for us? Us died in that hospital room when you couldn't be bothered to show up." He looked down at his feet. "And the house?" I actually laughed. "Seriously? That's what you really came for?" "It's half mine," he insisted, a flash of the old Derek returning. "No matter what paper trick you pulled." "Tell it to the judge," I said. "My lawyer says we can settle this in court if you want, but considering you signed the documents and processed them yourself, plus all those texts admitting you cheated, well, let's just say I like my chances." The deflation was almost visible, like watching a balloon lose air in slow motion. "I really loved you," he said as he headed for the door. "No, you loved the idea of me. The convenient, healthy, low-maintenance version. Real love sticks around when things get hard, Derek." After he left, I sat on my new porch swing, installed by Jess's brother, who unlike Derek actually knows his way around a toolbox, and watched the sunset. Lieutenant Dan hopped up beside me, his three-legged purr the most comforting sound I'd heard all day. My phone pinged with a text from my physical therapist confirming I was cleared for the 5K charity walk next month. Another ping from Jess with paint samples for the kitchen renovation we were planning. A third from my mom sending flight details for her visit next week. The accident had broken more than my body. It had shattered the illusion I'd been living in, that Derek and I were partners equals a team. But in breaking, it had also revealed the truth. I was stronger than I knew, surrounded by people who showed up when it mattered, and finally living in a house that was truly, legally, and deservedly mine. Sometimes the heaviest burdens we carry aren't physical at all. And sometimes letting go of those burdens is the most freeing thing we can do for ourselves. As for Derek and his 27 angry calls, last I heard, he was couch surfing at Travis's place and telling anyone who would listen about his crazy ex who stole his house. But here's the kicker. Nobody who actually knows the story is buying it. And me? I'm too busy walking forward to look back.